Welcome to another episode of Hat Collecting, the multi-passionate experience, where we talk about a little bit of everything. It often centers around entrepreneurship, creativity, neurodiversity, and all kinds of other good things. I am your host, Lacey Artemis. I wear many, many hats, which is why I started this show. And I'm very excited today to be joined by Robb Gilbear, who is many things, and I'll let him tell you all about those wonderful things.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So can you tell us just briefly what you do and like how you got into it?
Sure. I am the founder of Growth Habit, and coaches who care a lot about the people that they're serving, love what they do, and are damn good at actually doing that coaching aren't also naturally great at getting their message out and at enrolling clients. And they definitely don't want to do anything that feels icky or salesy or pushy. So I help them put out their message in a way that attracts clients that they love to serve so that they are excited and proud when they're telling their friends and family, not just about the impact that they're having, but also about the revenue that they're making. And then as far as like how I got into it, it's like how far back do we want to go? I think I have to give some context. So I dropped out of high school and started my first business as a teenager. First business was a record label. I produced music, I DJ'd, I got to travel. I got to do it pretty fully. I played in 65 cities across Canada and the US, DJ'd at Ultra Music Festival in Miami, Burning Man, Europe. And that was wonderful until the late nights, the drinking and the lifestyle nearly killed me, actually nearly killed me and really put me into a dark place. So I had to reinvent myself and went through a big change and ended up in office jobs where I was in HR, where I was in people and culture. And that was a great place for me because when done well, it is the intersection of people and business. I'm fascinated by business. I love trying to understand what makes businesses thrive regardless of what's going on in the market. And then also curious about humans and what makes them more joyful, more creative, more excited about life. And when done well, people and culture, human resources really is that intersection because it doesn't matter how well you're treating people. If the business isn't doing well, there's no jobs. But also, obviously, you can't treat people like shit and expect it to not negatively affect the business. And I got to a place where I was in head of people and culture roles. I was director of people and culture. And the best part of that role was coaching the CEO and the leadership team. And it was about difficult conversations and giving feedback and helping them perform better, et cetera. And it was fun. Like it did not feel like work. So that was the kind of the setup, but the coaching part was so rewarding, loved doing it. And I wanted to figure out like how could I do more of this. So I started coaching a little bit on the side, kind of quietly. My first couple clients were creative folks because of my background in music, a photographer, an author, recording artist, people in that area. And then I started changing my life through habits. I read the book Atomic Habits and I treated it like a course. I thought, what if I actually took what was in these pages and applied it instead of just reading it at bedtime and like, oh, this sounds nice. But what if I actually did the stuff? I did it and I shared my experience online. It was on Instagram then. LinkedIn is where I mainly hang out, but at the time it was Instagram. And I just shared like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm learning. It's making me feel more confident. Here's me tracking my habits. And people started asking for it. People started saying like, hey, whatever you're doing, can you please give this to me? So I started coaching people around habits, and then I signed a couple more clients and I felt the confidence that I could probably actually quit my job and go full time on this. And I did. I could keep going. I think maybe the last pivot that's important to kind of note is at first I called myself a habit strategist. I was helping people with habits, and that's what I was doing. But then other coaches and consultants started coming to me and asking me, hey, how'd you do this? I saw you had a full-time job. Now you have a full roster of clients. You seem to know some voodoo around LinkedIn. Can I ask you some questions? And I just did calls with people where they, wanted to pick my brain. I gave them some ideas around messaging content. Hey, you might want to change this on your profile, asking about their offer. And 1 week, 3 people asked for those calls. And 2 of them ended with the person saying, how do I have another one of these conversations? So it's the long kind of build up. But I think if I just said the last part, the context is missing. And yeah, now it's helping other coaches and consultants with their offers, with their messaging, with attracting clients, with building a business that they actually love.
Yeah, I really resonate with a lot of that. I'm kind of I guess following your footsteps, but I'm further back on the same path. But it's exciting to see other people kind of like, oh, that's what I'm shooting for. So because I've been kind of going through this process myself for a while, and I've gotten to this point where I'm able to kind of see what some of the other people coming up behind me are doing and be like, oh, hey, you know what? I did that and I learned that it doesn't work because X. And like, let me show you, because like, I want everybody to succeed. Right. So, and like the intersection of like people and business, that's kind of also where I'm really seeming to like end up now. So, I will note that I didn't actually officially meet you that night, but the night that I performed at Speaker Slam in May, you were one of the judges there. I didn't get a chance to meet you that night, but I did meet you at the How to Win on LinkedIn in 2025 event that you did, I think, the next month. And that was really great because I've been really living on LinkedIn a lot more as well. I want to ask you because so at that event, one thing that I brought up, because you mentioned that you also have ADHD, and I have ADHD as well as autism, and I found that that's made it really challenging for me because everyone's always just like, you know, you got a hyper niche, and I've always struggled with that. But more recently, I feel like I've stumbled into an intersection of a few different things that relate, and that is enough variety for me to kind of stay content now. So I guess to what extent, like, do you think that what you're doing, do you think ADHD kind of brought you to that as well in some way?
For sure. I think there's a lot of things that are written and spoken about when it comes to the intersection of creativity and ADHD. And
Mm.
not that those things they always come hand in hand, but frequently they're a pairing that is found together. They go well. And then I was also chatting with someone on a podcast a couple weeks ago, and they asked me about if I think everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur. Can anyone be an entrepreneur? And I said, well, for me, it's like creativity. Everyone is creative, and then those things are eroded out of them. And then we went into this idea that, to me, creativity and entrepreneurship they really quite are similar, because it is about finding unique ways to solve problems and to use your creativity to find solutions to those problems, to how you put your message out there. So there's no doubt that my ADHD played a part in my business and kind of where I've ended up because of the creativity piece. And also, my ADHD is why I struggled with a lot of previous businesses, where I would get to a certain point and then I would self sabotage, or I'd allow myself to pursue seven different things at once and wonder why none of them particularly worked. So I've had to find ways to say thank you for the gifts, thank you for the endless ideas, thank you for all the bountiful things that ADHD gives me, but also figure out how do I work with it in a way that allows me to still get shit done and still move things forward and be known for something and allow to build a business around it, versus just being a bunch of feel good hobbies, a bunch of sounding good things where nothing in particular is moving forward.
Hmm. One of the things I think is a struggle for, I know it's been a struggle for me, and it kind of comes back to this idea where we're always good at like giving advice to other people, but then we suck at taking it because we have the emotional attachment to our own problems, but we don't to other people's. Do you have any thoughts or the ideas around that in terms of the coaching thing? Like any suggestions for how to maybe get better at um, being a little bit more detached sometimes so you can manage your struggles a little bit better?
I think there's a question that a mentor posed to me that I've been sitting with and keep coming back to, which is, what are you tolerating?
Hmm.
And like, what are you tolerating in your life? What are you tolerating of yourself? What do you continue to accept, even if you know if it doesn't serve you? And being willing to look at that, because it allows me at least to then start having the tougher conversation with myself, which is like, hey, I know I shouldn't do this, and I've told 100 other people they shouldn't do it, and the people who listen to the advice and follow the guidance have great. So why am I still repeating this pattern? Why am I still doing this thing and tripping myself up? I think that helps me a whole heck of a lot. The other piece too is just, there are many maps to the world, but there's not one definitive map of the world. And we all have our map of the world based on things parents said just weren't kids, the things we got chastised for in public school, what we were bullied for, what was in media, the movies we watched, and we construct this map of the world. And I am a person who does this and this identity, and it's all made up bullshit. It's all bullshit, all of it. And once you realize that, at first it's scary because then it's like, well, I'm tethered to nothing. I've poured all my identity. Like the music one was tough for me because I did it for almost 20 years. It's where I met my ex-wife. It's where all my friends were. It's where I got all my meaning. It's where I got all my significance. And it's part of why when I walked away from music, it nearly ended me because I had put so much of my self-worth attached to that identity. But now I'm on the other side of it and I've rewritten my identity a few times and it's made up. So if it's made up, then like you can rewrite it. So it's scary at first, but there's a freedom that comes with that.
Yeah, I think that one thing that really has coalesced for me lately, because like I've been realizing a lot of the mistakes that I've made in the past and like what I was doing wrong. And one of them was that I was basically waiting for somebody to notice me and all the like cool stuff that I was doing. And I've realized more recently, it doesn't matter how amazing you are at something if people don't understand how you're going to be able to help them. And that was the thing, is I always struggled with marketing and I struggled with like communicating. I was just like, hey, look, I did this really cool thing. And people are like, yeah, cool, I guess, but like, what does that matter to me? And now I'm learning how to say like, okay, because I have, as I was saying, these cross sections of interest. Like I have the background in accounting and music and design and neurodiversity and these different and like event stuff. So it's all kind of come together now that I'm starting to do like been doing the speaking thing and getting into consulting and doing event stuff, and I'm working with some organizations now. So it's really exciting that like, because I think for me, I kind of knew deep down when everyone kept telling me to niche that I'm like, okay, if I literally do what they're telling me explicitly of like push all this other stuff aside and only do one thing, that has never worked. I've tried it multiple times, it never works. So I found a way to like kind of stick to like I knew deep down that I had to find the way that was going to work for me, and I think I finally got there after lots of stumbling. So you have this motto on your website, and I guess more broadly, of do bold shit. So I guess where was the sort of genesis of that, and like what is the boldest thing that you say that you've done?
The genesis of it was reflecting on my life and the moments that were most energizing, most rewarding, allowed me to really create broader impact with myself, my most important relationships, and then the people that I serve. And there were moments of doing bullshit. And I started thinking one day about there's all this advice out there and like this is the way and this is the proven system and this is the magic bullet and you have to do it this way. And some people say it's LinkedIn or nothing else. Other people like forget LinkedIn. If you're not on TikTok, you're non-existent. And some people say you need to do online workshops. And some people say forget online workshops. If you're not email marketing, and it's this never ending amount of stuff. And then I was like, well, if I zoom up a couple layers, like what is the definitive, simple steps that have worked for me and worked for many of my clients? And it's do bullshit that scares you. And I've been thinking about it journaling in the last few days, and it might be like do bullshit that excites you. Because for me, scary and exciting, they're quite similar. And there's lots written about that too. Like the physical representations of either emotion can be quite similar. So do bullshit that scares you. Learn as you go. So reflect on it, pay attention, what's going on, share what you're learning to help others, repeat. And if you just go through that cycle, then all the other nonsense and advice and strategies matter a whole lot less. And it's how I wrote my book. It's how I ran 48 miles in 48 hours in the Colorado Rockies. The relationship I'm in now, speaking of bold things, for our second date, I messaged her and said, hey, do you want to go to Miami this weekend? And we flew to Miami for the weekend. Like, so there's a lot of representations of it. And even when I quit my job, so there's like, okay, I got a couple of clients. I feel like I can do this coaching thing. I'm excited by it. A lot of people, they're kind of meek. They're either like, they don't tell anyone, they tell two people. It's like, hey, work with me. But I fucking owned it. I was the post that I shared online on LinkedIn. It was like, I quit my job and I can't believe how well things are going. And I captured my excitement in the moment when I had just signed up a new client and why that person was awesome to work with and the traits they had that made me feel like they were really someone that I could help. And I put that energy out into the world. And that post got 20,000 views, even though I had 18 or 1,900 followers. It got hundreds of likes and comments. I was inundated with people that wanted to work with me. And it's because I was being bold. because I was sticking my neck, like, I'm doing this thing fully. This is what's up. And people pay attention to that because we can go into this whole other separate rant as far as the things that we got rewarded and punished for as kids, and then we start going to school where you line up when the bell rings, and then you go to your workstation, and then you have to put up your hand up to ask questions. You're rewarded for memorizing and regurgitating. You have to ask permission even to go to the toilet, and then we go from that to more schooling, to maybe to an office job where it's not standing out that'll get you in trouble, and make sure don't rock all the. So it's erodes our willingness, our creativity, and our ability to stand out and to be bold. And look, historically, if we were still in tribes and nomadic roaming tribes, if I was ostracized from the tribe, if you did something that upset people and we were like, Lacey, you're out, you'll die. So I think it's in our DNA, but just realizing that it's okay to do bold things. So that's where it's come from, and that was 80. And then it's funny, the event last year, the idea of do bold shit already existed in my community. I'm looking up because I have a pair of socks. Like, everyone who works with me, they get a pair of socks. Mail to them is one of the things, and then the socks, they're bright bold colors, and it says do bold shit on the socks. And this is already a notion in the community. And I was doing this event last year, and I saw the venue, and the venue, I was on the 29th floor looking south in Toronto. You can see the CN Tower, you can see the lake. It's crazy. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, I have to do an event here. But I was scared, and I hesitated, and I hemmed and hawed. And then when I finally like, I'm going forward with this, at first I didn't know what the event was called. I didn't know how to have a theme for it. I was like, hey, I'm doing an event in October. Who wants to come? And then I thought about it. I was like, wait a minute, me doing this event and me saying yes to doing an event at this bold of a place, like, this is me doing bold shit. What if I called the event Do Bullshit? What if I created an environment where people showed up and they were stretched and learned and given the support to realize that, to one, acknowledge the bold things they've already done, and then to lean in and do more bold things in their lives going forward. So yeah, that's where Do Bullshit comes from. It's something I believe in, and I think I'm over getting tattoos for now, but there's a possibility at some point in the future where I end up with a Do Bullshit tattoo.
That makes a lot of sense. And listening to you talk about that, you've made me realize how many things in my life have basically, like, I wasn't thinking, oh, I need to do bullshit on purpose, but just I was like, when you mentioned the book, and like literally back in 2019, I was like, you know what? I want to be able to say that I wrote a book, and I didn't have like a specific like goal. That was just it. It's like, I just want to write a book. And so I had this idea, and I just like spent a year writing, and I wrote a short fiction novel. And I haven't written any other books since then, but I was like, hey, I could say I have a book, I wrote it, it's published, you can read it. And like podcasting, same kind of thing. And just there's been a bunch of other stuff. And I kind of realized that is sort of a thing now where I have these crazy ideas. And it sort of comes back to this phrase that I use where I think it was like, shoot for the stars, because even if you miss, you land on the moon. So like, you just have a big goal that you go after, and no matter what, if you go for it, you're going to get somewhere. And I think that that's cool. And I think that what you do and what people like us do inspires the people that want to be bolder, but they kind of need someone to give them permission and break the ice. So the world needs that, because, you said too many people get broken into the obedience there. Yeah, let's see here. We've kind of gone off the so sometimes I stick with normal questions on the show, and sometimes it just becomes a conversation. And like, we're just two ADHD people. It's not hard to have a conversation flowing. I guess one thing I'm kind of curious to ask you about, so I had this concept on the original run of this show, which was 2020 to 2022, where I'd ask people about this idea of like dissimilar hats. And it's like, basically two things about you, whether they're interests or their skills or whatever, but two things kind of in you as a person or in your experience that are like very different, and people will be surprised to know that you do both or you're interested in both.
The first thing that comes to mind is the irony that is my movie choices that I prefer. And for my family, they're like, how is this the same person? So if we were to open up any streaming platform where I have an account and looked at the things that I have saved, the things that I have watched, and things that are being recommended to me, there's three categories, but I see them kind of in two groups. One is inspiring documentaries, inspiring movies. The other one is rom-coms. And for me, like, I group those both together. It feels good, it feels great to watch. You feel more hopeful, more inspired. So that's one half. The other part is war movies and war documentaries, where I can watch those, and of course it affects me, and of course it affects the way that I see the world and how I interact with people. And I love both. I think I love history, and then you look at history and there's like the world has been at war in some way, shape, or form for as long as there's been documented writings, tablets. Like, there's been conflict, and I'm fascinated by it. And I'm also know that I've been reincarnated more than once, and a past version of me has lived through some of those periods. So I think the duality of that is kind of surprising to people. But I think, but maybe more about like hats or roles beyond that. mm, I don't hide it, and people that spend a bit more time in my world know, because it comes up from time to time and I talk about them, or if anyone's read my book, it is something. But I really cherish my role as a papa. Like, I love my children. It means so much to me, and it's probably one of the few triggers I still have left, because I've done a lot of work and I don't have too many triggers. But if someone is questioning me as a father, or if, like, there's judgment on that, or if there's obviously some kind of threat to my children, like, my fuse will be remarkably short compared to any other potential triggers. But I like, got two teenage children. They mean a whole heck of a lot to me. My role as a father means so damn much. And yeah, that's, and I think that's the dance I'm doing right now with my business. And it's really, I had an aha where I had a breakdown in Paris, which we can talk about if you're curious, a couple years ago, where I realized that I was living out of alignment with my values. I'd said, like, family is most important, but that's not the way that I built my business, the way I was living my life. But man, my kids mean so much to me.
Well, that's lovely. And I got to meet one of your kids actually, and just how they say sometimes, like, you could just tell when somebody was raised well. I would say that about your child that I met. So, congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Yeah, I did want to throw this out there. So I know right now you're doing, I don't know if you want to call it a promotion or if it's, I guess, just your goal for 2025 to, was it help to 25 coaches, was it, to get to 100K this year?
Yeah.
So if you want to talk a little bit about that, but I'm also curious to ask if, do you have any thoughts? 'Cause now we're over halfway through this year. Have you given any thought to maybe a goal for 2026?
Ah, that's funny. So we can talk about that goal for a bit, because I shared about it. I gave an update on it in the last couple days, and then someone commented like, "Oh, it's really nice to see that your goal is about helping others." And then last year, as I was thinking about what I wanted out of this year and what I had going on, and I started thinking about revenue goals, and it's just, ugh, like, it felt so flat. It felt so forced, and it felt like, oh, I should be aiming for a rep, and I don't know. That's not what I want to do. And then once I reframed it, I thought about, well, what do I want to be helping other people do? And what if I helped 25 people in 2025 get to this milestone? Because for a lot of people, that represents making it. That means being able to pay for life, be able to go on vacation and have some money aside. That means feeling safe. That means and represents, oh, so much. So the moment that I reframed my goal around how do I help other people achieve their goals, then it was genuinely inspiring. Like, it was exciting, and it gave me energy. And what's fun is, so we're just over halfway through this year, and nine people of the 25 are there.
Hmm.
We're going into the last 5 months of the year, and I know what'll happen is more people will get to the threshold and pass the threshold, and then we'll see if I can actually do it. I think it might still be possible. The last few people, it might be more of, they're at $100,000 a year run rate. Like, their business is consistent in bringing in the amount of money that if we able to go for another 12 months. So that's where it came from. That was the idea behind it. And then I don't know for next year. I'm not sure. And I was chatting with an old client yesterday, and we went out for a chat and a walk, and they were asking about stuff. And I'm just in this place right now where it's more about, what does life look like? What are the levers I can pull? Like, realizing that my life, and I believe it's true for anyone listening to this, is more of like a set of Lego blocks, and you can decide what blocks you add, what blocks you don't, what blocks you focus on. And me having a life where I am making really great money, but I'm working part time. where I am having awesome impact, but I have a lot of time for creativity and writing and videos and things that give me energy, because it's very easy for me to see the levers that I would need to pull to turn what I've got going right now into $1 million plus a year business. Very easy. But right now, the cost would is not a cost I'm willing to pay, as far as me having to spend more time on sales calls or hire more team that would do those kinds of calls, or versus I'm like, I don't know, $500,000 a year business while I'm working part-time and being creative a whole bunch. Like, it's kind of fun. So I don't know if there's going to be like a goal like that next year. It's just I'm continuing to tinker with what does an awesome life for me look like? What does a life well lived for me look like? What does a life where I'm channeling my energy, my creativity, and my impact for others look like?
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like I'm on the same page with that myself. I've never made a tremendous amount of money in any job that I've had in my life. And like I'm now similar thing, like going forward, I see so much. It's actually really funny to me how there's this like such a strong emphasis placed when we're in school on, getting a good job. And like nowadays, like a good job, you're looking at maybe making like, I don't know, 70 to 150K or something like that. And nowadays, like that's not even like with the cost of living and rent and everything, like you basically need to make, if you're in Toronto, you basically need to make 100K a year if you're on your own. But like I look at, jobs now and it's like, oh, it pays like 25 an hour, 30 an hour. And like, extrapolate that and like, that's really not that much because now I know how to do the calculation to figure out the monthly amount and all that. And I'm looking at like, but if I do like consulting and coaching and do this other stuff, like, and so I it's transformed the way that I think about that, and just really blown my mind that I was making less, working more, and being less appreciated by working for a company, by working for somebody else. And I'm just like, why, why aren't we like taught, like encouraged and taught and fostered to go kind of break out? And because I think you said like everyone's capable of this, they just need the right kind of mentoring, guidance, coaching, whatnot. So, yeah,
I have thoughts on that. I think the system is designed intentionally so. And for a long time, the system needed good workers, needed obedient people, needed people to just follow the steps to go work in the factory or go work in the office job, which was just like factory working with information. And what's happening now is the rate of change is accelerating, and a lot of people are being forced into situations where it's awesome because the first people to take the leap either were let go, and then they're like, wait a minute, what if I didn't go back to trading my time for money? Or they saw the opportunity, they're like, wait a minute, what if I had more control? But what's happening now, and what's we're going to see happen a whole lot in the next 2, 4, like 10 years, millions of people are going to be let go, and the market will change. And it'll be interesting to see how long it takes the system to adjust to say like, oh, we need to be training people to be able to create their own little businesses, because a few hundred years ago most people were an entrepreneur. Like if we go back like, 3, 4, 500 years ago, people were farmers and people had a little shop and someone was a
and such.
seamstress, and it was most people were entrepreneurs. And of course there was people that went and worked for those folks, but there was way, way, way more entrepreneurs. And we're in a point right now where we're, as a society, returning to entrepreneurship. People aren't ready. The systems aren't there to train people. The education system's not there to prepare people. So anyone who's listening right now who is already building their own thing or is thinking about it, I just think the opportunity is ripe right now, because a lot of people are going to get forced into it whether they want it or not in the coming years. And there's a reckoning that I don't think most realize that's here, that's happening already.
Yeah, it's I as much as like right now in this particular moment in time, think it's a transition period. Things are very challenging. It is like if you like I also feel fortunate that I'm making some of the changes that I'm making now, even though it's not the best time, but I know that I'm gonna end up okay and I'm gonna end up on where I'm supposed to be. So um yeah, and I think it's just I'll briefly talk about, as I was saying, getting into kind of consulting and such. So um, I have this is not the like final official name for it, but I've been developing this workshop and this talk, Fish and Trees, which is based on an Albert Einstein quote. I think you're familiar. Because realizing just that neuro-inclusivity, both in organizations, but also in terms of like in venues and events. And like, that was why I started doing an events company earlier this year. Because I was really frustrated by how many events I went to, and there was just clearly zero consideration made for any kind of accessibility. And I was like, it's not that hard, really. So I kind of, got frustrated, and I stepped up. I was like, I'm gonna, and then I went down the rabbit hole, and this is a whole new world now that I'm getting into here. So I wanted to mention that briefly. Yeah, I wanted to give you a chance. I know you briefly mentioned your book there, but that's sort of my, and of course, LaceyArtemis.com and at Lacey Artemis on the stuff. But I want to give you a chance. Is there anything specific that you haven't really talked about that you want to like plug or give more of a shout out to that you're doing?
I think I appreciate you mentioning the book, and I think that is something that is worth mentioning briefly, because I'm really proud of it. And there's one piece of feedback that I get from it consistently, which is like, people say nice things about being inspired and motivated, and they got so much out of it, and all sorts of lovely things like that. But the most continuous, the repeatable, predictable piece of feedback I get is, I couldn't put it down. I couldn't stop reading it. I read it in one sitting. I read it in a weekend. I had someone asked me and said, I made the mistake of starting to read it on a red-eye flight and didn't sleep at all. So, and we're 3.5 years, almost 4 years in. When the hell did I publish it? Give or take. And I still love it immensely, and I'm still really proud of it. And the book's called Die Before They Do: From Selling Drugs to Lunch with Jim Carrey, Stories of Struggle, Near-Death Experiences, and Creating a Life with Meaning. And as far as the stuff we were talking about earlier, and the ability we all have, and you all have, to rewrite who you are and change how you show up and rewrite your identity, and then change your outcomes and your circumstances by kind of being the author of your life. This is what this book is really all about. And it's a collection of stories. Like this, everything in here is true. So I feel proud of this book. I'm happy with this book, and I would recommend it if you're into it and if you're enjoying parts of this conversation, to check it out. Otherwise, anyone who wants to dabble in my world and see what I'm about, growthhabit.org. There's a bunch of stuff there. There's free trainings. I publish a newsletter a few times a week that I share a lot of insights and ideas and strategies. And then as far as you want to snoop me on the internet, I am most active on LinkedIn. I started publishing more frequently on YouTube. And then, of course, Instagram is one of those platforms I think it's hard to avoid. I jokingly say sometimes that I moonlight on Instagram, so I'll share some stories there sometimes.
Yeah, speaking of the story stuff, I know I've been trying to post more of those myself, and I'm still kind of more in the thick of a lot of the foundation building and doing a lot of the admin stuff, which is fine as I'm building, and that'll be set eventually, and then set it, forget it, and but I keep sort of be like, oh, I want to like record like a little short video or something, and then the day just gets away from me, and then I don't. So like because this month actually I announced, not, I haven't announced it on LinkedIn yet, I don't think, but I came up with this idea to do something called Awkward August. And I thought of this back in June, and this was born from me being such an awkward kid growing up because I was autistic and I didn't know it. And so I was just always awkward and weird, and people just, that's part of why it was so hard for me to connect with people and to make friends and all that kind of stuff. And I realized that so many people are discouraged, or they're too anxious, or they're too shy, or they're too self-conscious to kind of be bold or to take those chances, they're afraid to look dumb. And like, I took improv classes about 10 years ago, and that really kind of helped me get over the worst of that sort of fear, like, and then I got into stand-up comedy, and I feel like if you can do stand-up comedy, then you can do anything. But for me, it was this idea of like, I want to just, because I learned how to embrace and lean into the awkwardness and turn it into a strength instead of a weakness. And I wanted to spend some time to like be more upfront about that, and to like, again, set the example and break the ice and say like, if you feel this way and you've been afraid to be more visible, like, let's do it together. And I've unfortunately I was sick for a few days this week, and I've been really busy, so I haven't been able to do as much with it yet, but I want to do more with it this month and try to maybe make that like an annual thing as well.
I love that idea, and obviously the alliteration. I'm a sucker for alliterations, but you sharing and showing that it's okay, and talking about and sharing your own stories, just letting the other people know that it's fine and it's okay, and that they'll be all right as well, and just living by example. It's the best thing. Like who you're being and what you're sharing and showing, as far as being a light for other people, is the most powerful way.
Hmm. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I don't think we've you plugged your website, but your Rob Gilbear on. I'll put all the links in the show notes, of course. But Rob Gilbear on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and is there any other stuff that we've missed, or I know you kind of more limited in where you're at these days for sanity's sake, I'm sure.
For Sandy's sake, no, I think that's it, and I appreciate the conversation. It's been fun, and I think we mentioned all the things that I have going on that that are exciting, that I'd want people to check out. And um, thank you for having me. Thank you for hosting these kinds of conversations and for including me.
Thank you. And yeah, for anyone out there who is neurodivergent and looking for some guidance, or like I said, the if you're working in a place and they're not as inclusive about it as you'd like, or you want to know how to help out with more with like creating the getting social events to be a little bit more welcoming, reach out to me, Lacey at laceyartemis.com, and we can chat about that. And yeah, happy Friday. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, this has been the Multi Passion Experience, and I will see you next time.